What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Coach T with Chicago Bears 360 with Coach T and Swifty. Listen, man, I got a special guest on the program today, bro. I've been trying to make this happen for a while, and the day is finally here, man. So I hope y'all can hear the excitement in my voice, man, because this is something I've been looking forward to for a while. Special guest on the show. I will do a long introduction, but I'm just going to do it like this, right? And I told him I had something special for him, but I'm just gonna do it like this. Let me see if I can set this up right without jacking it up. But let's get into it.
Tell me if you think this is a fair assessment of you. I personally think you got all the skill sets to be a really elite corner in this league. But I think that at times, to me, it seems like you were a little bit hesitant to kind of pull the trigger and take some risks, like maybe not wanting to make mistakes deep. Do you think that new confidence will allow you to kind of pull the trigger, or maybe even having the ball in front of you, you think that'll allow you to kind of take some risks where maybe it was like, nah, I don't want to get beat, I ain't going to make that jump?
I feel like my role last year, following number one wide receiver, I feel like there's not too many risks you can take. I feel like depending on what my role is moving forward, depending on the flow of the game, what I'm being called to do, I feel like calls for different techniques and different, like you said, risks you can take. But I definitely don't think that there was too many more risks that I can take last year, always having that prime matchup.
So it's like that. Now I got a lot going on right here. But listen, that was my best introduction to our special guest today. The voice you heard behind that question sits in the actual Chicago Bears press room. And just so happened to be my favorite, I don't know if he want to use the term, beat writer, social media guru, whatever you want to call it. Just my personal favorite, because the man asks football questions. So we're going to have on the program no other than Herb Howard, Halas Hall Insider. I'm going to use that. Halas Hall Insider, Chicago Bears Insider. So stick into the program. If you're in the comment section, do me a favor, run those likes up. Let's get this algorithm busting. Y'all know what I do next. Cue the intro.
Welcome to Chicago Bears 360. Keeping it a buck with Coach T.
Contra.
Life like chess, move to pieces, you know I roll in silence. On the road to them Benjis, I fill my teeth with diamonds. I'm high as fuck in the sky, you would've thought I'm pilot. I'm from Chicago, it get ugly, fill the streets with violence. Life like chess, move to pieces, you know I roll in silence.
Past, present, future. We bear down.
Hey, and just like that, man, we here. We in the building. Welcome to the show, man. Herb Howard, Chicago Bears, Halas Hall Insider, man. I don't know what to say, bro. Welcome to the show, man.
Hey, man, thanks for having me. It's an absolute honor and a pleasure to be hanging out with y'all, man. Y'all do
This is crazy.
dope work. Y'all cover the team in a dope way, man. Y'all know everything that you need to know. Y'all approach it from a very, very real way, man. It's an absolute honor and a pleasure to be on with y'all. Thanks for having me, truly.
Man, listen, Swifty, you want to say something before I get into it, man?
Man, I gotta say, man, Herb, just personally, you're a favorite of mine, man. I've been waiting for a guy like you to ask those questions inside Halas Hall for a long time, man. We've had for just years and years people been saying the same thing. You always bring those real questions. Every time I watch a press conference, I can tell when you ask a question, I'm like, that was Herb. That was a good one right there, man. So it's an honor to meet you, man. Pleasure, you're a legend.
Pleasure is all mine. Thank you.
Yeah, so I had to hit you with the surprise, you know what I'm saying, clip of the question you asked Jalen Johnson this past week, man.
Yeah.
I had to give the people an example of what I'm talking about, man, when I say, and then also, for those that's not familiar, man, get them familiar with your voice. When you listen to those press conferences, I remember like a year ago, I was like, who is that dude, bro, asking that question? I'm like, who is the brother asking those questions because he's nailing the question. And it's a distinct difference between the type of questions you ask, like the one you asked Jalen. And I hate to say it, man. I know I hate to say it, but there's a distinct difference between the type of questions you ask and the other questions we hear. So before I get into all that, man, tell me about yourself personally, man. You know, obviously you're a Chicago guy, but what's the path, man? Tell me about your path to get where you are right now.
Yeah, I'll definitely get into that for sure, man. I like the intro video that you came with, the clip from talking to Jalen, man. Jalen is probably my favorite player on the team, man. I really like Jalen. I think in terms of a football player, I think he's got a lot of potential to really be an elite level corner. On top of that, I think he's a real cool dude. He talked to us often. Good personality, good sense of humor. And I actually, that night after I had that interaction with him, I spent some time like, damn, I don't know that I felt good about doing that to him live in that situation. You know what I mean? What's the corner that just got the $84 million contract? Dude from Green Bay. He
Jair
just got
Alexander.
right. Jair just got the contract, and so I know that Jalen is, behind the scenes working on his own deal, and I'm like, maybe I shouldn't have said that he could be better publicly. That's something I would like to ask him privately, but we don't get that much one-on-one time with him, so I got to ask him when I have to ask him. But I got a lot of respect for Jalen, man. I think he's dope. But that's truly my assessment of him. I think that oftentimes he has opportunities to make big game-changing plays, and he kind of plays it just a little bit safe. He'll be there, he'll compete, he'll get the PBU or make the tackle, but I think he has some opportunities to really make some game-changing plays, and he's just a little bit hesitant to pull the trigger on that. And so that's kind of what I was referring to. I can remember specifically, if you go back to the Minnesota game, I think the last game of the season, in the second half, right? Whatever touchdown kind of bust the game open for Minnesota. They ran double post right to the middle of the field. Jalen's receiver and then a receiver on the other side. They both ran post, and Jalen kind of recognized it as it was happening in front of him. He recognized that the post was happening, and so as opposed to chasing his guy all the way across the field, he kind of yelled out to the other side, like middle, that his guy was coming. And then he kind of pivoted, spun all the way around to come get the other dude that was running the other post, right? And I think that in the middle of doing that, you could just kind of see that he was like, wait, I just did something that I know is the right thing, but I don't know if they picked up on it. And so he kind of got stuck in no man's lane. He's like, well, maybe I should try to go around and get my other guy. He left the dude and got a touchdown on the post around the other side on his side. Right. I asked him about that after the game, and I talked to him. I went through it just like I just went through it. Like he was like, yeah, that's exactly what happened. And I was like, man, that would have been one of the best plays I've ever seen a cornerback make, just in terms of the instincts that you had to recognize what was coming, spin, pivot, and then go make a play on that ball. He could have certainly picked it off in the end zone, but I think that was just one example of him, just being a little bit hesitant and not going to be great. Like he's really, really good, but I think he can be great. And I think those are the small differences. And so that's kind of what that interaction was about, man. But for me personally, yeah, I'm a Chicago dude, born and raised on the South Side, grew up in South Shore, went to Whitney Young for high school, went to SIU in Carbondale in college, actually studied marketing in college. Mm-hmm. But football has always just been my thing, man. It was my first love, the first thing I fell in love with. I can remember being a kid, and that's back when the draft was on Saturday. You know what I mean? It wasn't a prime time thing. Right. So I would get up early Saturday morning, and I would write down every single draft pick from every team. You know what I mean? I would just go through and write down every pick, what number they got picked, what position they played, what school they came from. I probably still got that notebook around somewhere from all of those different draft classes, but I just kind of always did that. And then as I got older, it became, more Bears focused, and just kind of, covering the Bears on my own and just talking about them in the way that I wanted to. And from doing that, I met Terrence Tomlin and Eugene McIntosh, the co-founders of the Biggs Media. And
plug all that, by the way. I need you to plug all that.
Yeah, for sure. I cover the Bears for the Biggs Media. The Biggs is independently owned. It's a Black-owned media outlet. We cover all of the pro sports teams in Chicago: the Cubs, the Sox, the Bears, the Bulls. We all over that thing. But it was founded by, like I said, Eugene McIntosh and Terrence Tomlin. And those dudes have done a lot of dope stuff, man. They got so much dope content. A lot of stuff people ain't even seen yet. They got an interview with Tom Ricketts, just them two and Tom Ricketts right after the World Series up in Cleveland. And it's super, super dope, man. They also they came up with the nickname El Mago for Javi Baez when MLB.com did the top 50 nicknames in baseball. El Mago is number 1, and they acknowledge the bigs for coming up with that nickname. So they've done a lot of stuff, man. They super dope dudes, Chicago dudes, Southside dudes, and they asked me if I would want to do a pregame show with them during the 2020, the pandemic season, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And so we did we called it a kickoff kickback, right? And so we went from like 12 a.m. right up to the noon kickoff, and we would just kind of chill out and talk about the games and make our picks and talk about the Bears and whatnot. And as that thing kind of, evolved, they were just like, yo, what you would think about, joining the bigs and covering the Bears for us? And I was like, look, man, don't play with me like that. You know what I mean? Like that's don't even mention that to me unless that's really
That's a real thing, right?
Yeah, if that's not a real thing, don't even bring that to me, because that's like a dream come true for me, man. I've been a Bears fan my whole life, man. I got baby pictures and Bear sweaters and all that stuff. You know what I mean? So it was just like, nah, don't. But they went through the process, and then a couple months later they came back and it was like, yo, all your credentials and stuff is back from the Bears if you down to cover us. And it was a little bit before training camp started last year. And I was like, yo, that's bananas, man. And so I remember the first day driving up to Lake Forest, and just, I don't even think I played music the whole time. I think I was just like, man, I'm really on my way to Halas Hall right now to cover the Bears.
Right.
And like I said, it was just a full circle moment, a dream come true type thing for me. And so I got there, and once I familiarized myself with the facility in terms of just knowing where to go, where to be, you know what I mean?
Right.
Then it just became real natural. You know what I mean? That when I first pulled up and you pull up to the gate and you see the big Bear sign and they check you in and your name is at the gate and all of that type of stuff, I was like, man, it was nostalgic. It was super, super dope. But then once it starts, it's kind of like a football game, man. It's kind of like the butterflies you get coming out the tunnel.
Yeah.
All that is there. You kind of walk around and you see the stadium, you see the stands, like, oh. But then once the ball go up, now we're just balling.
Yeah,
and so once it was time to start working, then it was just time to start working. It was just, talking about the game I love, and I just happened to be talking about it with head coach of the Chicago Bears or quarterback of the Chicago Bears. And so I didn't go into it, trying to, make any concessions or kiss any rings, if you will, in terms of lots of reporters that I have been following for a long time. I'm a fan of a lot of those people working there, man. I've probably read everything Brad Biggs has ever done. You know what I mean? Those types of things, and Jason Lee, all of those guys, man. I've followed their work, whether I always agree with them or not. I always followed their work. But in getting into that space and being in that room, I didn't view it as like, oh, I'm the new guy. I gotta, kind of bide my time. I just came in and I wanted to know what I wanted to know. And so a little bit, you might get a little bit of a cold shoulder on some who's the new guy type of stuff that you might get at a new school or something like that. But after they realize that you can add something to the space, that you can actually bring something to, that press room, then, they become more receptive to you being around. They appreciate, the answers that you're able to get. I do think I bring something different to that space, just being a younger black dude. It's mostly older white guys in there. And so I think that allows for a different rapport that I'm able to build with, young black athletes. That's mostly who we talk to. And so I'm able to have interactions with, the Jalen Johnsons of the world or whomever it may be, that's different than maybe someone else may be able to have. And it's just because we're more relatable to each other, if nothing else.
Right.
But like I said, I know the game. I love the game. So I know exactly what I'm looking for. I know exactly what I'm looking at. And then I try and get the answers that I need and do it in a way that is unapologetic, but it's not disrespectful. You know what I mean? I don't have any malice or disrespect towards those guys. I think they're all world-class athletes, even when they don't play well. You're in the NFL, you can ball. You know what I mean? So I'm not sitting here acting like these dudes are just terrible. But maybe you made some mistakes, and we got to answer those questions. So I'm just not afraid to bring it. That's it.
Yeah, man. Like you answered, you pretty much answered like 3 of the questions I had all in one sitting, right? Because there is a cultural element to this, right? And I think for me, that's one of the dynamics, right? So obviously I coach ball, and I was gonna plug and let you know I got one of my former players that's actually on the Bears roster this year, and
super dope.
A player that was on the roster last year. I
Who
coached
that?
again. I coached against last year, Rodney Adams. I coached against at Lakewood High School, but Byron Pringle was his senior year was my first year coaching high school football down in Tampa, South Tampa, Florida, at Robinson High School. So I'm looking to
That's
hook
what's
back
up.
up with
Congratulations,
Byron.
man. For real.
We're trying to set up an interview. So yeah. So for me,
Yeah, I'll definitely mention that next time I see him, man. That's dope.
tell him, man, Coach T trying to get up with him, man. Answer his phone or check his
I,
DMs. Gee whiz,
I'll definitely
bro.
try. I'll definitely try to get a word with him. Like I said, we don't get a whole lot of one-on-one time right now, but the locker room's supposed to be back open this year. So we spent the past couple of years just kind of they bring out to the podium who they want us to speak to. But if we get back to an open locker room space, that'll be a huge game changer for me.
But listen, we're going to get into the X's and O's. I promise you we're going to do that. If we don't do nothing on this show,
Yeah, it's all good, bro.
we talk about X's and O's of football. I know that I'm highlighting stuff for the people in the comments to ask questions. I'm highlighting questions for them. But I wanted to talk really about, again, the approach. And then also, I don't know if you're aware of, you talked about your journey to Halas Hall, right? And I'm getting butterflies thinking about how that drive was for you, right? Because I work in corporate America too, so I understand how when you're a trailblazer in certain spaces and you have to be the first. A lot of times, I know a lot of people won't talk about it, but it's real, right? It's a real experience for young African American men. We have to do that, be the first. So I got butterflies when I talk about that. When I think about when I heard your experience, right? But the other thing is this, right? I don't know if you're aware of it, but it's also taking on this shape and form where, you in the Bigs team, you guys are becoming pioneers, and you guys are becoming role models for channels like ours, like mine.
Yeah.
And me and Swifty had this conversation before. It's the reason why our channel is mostly, or our show is mostly clean, because I'm like, I don't want to be, what I'm saying? I love football. I love coaching the game. But I don't want to counsel myself or eliminate myself from, say, the Bears organization call one day. Or, like you said, those guys reached out to you and was like, hey, could you do this? Now, I never had the aspirations of being a in-the-room reporter, but I like being around the game. And I never wanted to eliminate myself from being in contention for one of those jobs. And the other thing is, I'll say this to you and give you your flowers while you're here, right? My heroes in life are the people that find a way to do what they love doing for a living. If you can make your living doing what you love, to me, I just think it makes an all-around good person, and you're just not a miserable, part of my friends.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? The people that's miserable in life, they go to jobs that they got to go to make money. If you can find a way to do what you love doing for a living, man, so automatically, bro, you one of my heroes, man. That's just the real with it.
I appreciate that, brother, truly, and I received that, man. I think it's about being purpose driven, and I think that when you talk about what the Bigs represents and what that means for not only our team at the Bigs but everybody else, I think it's important. I think it's something that we take very, very serious. I think it's something that we're very intentional about. I think that it is our duty and our responsibility to not only show up and do our job at a high level, but also to continue to create pathways into this industry for people who come from places like us, from people who look like us. And I think that that's something that's never lost on me at any time when I'm doing that job. I think that that's kind of that's almost as big as the work. You know what I mean? Like when the big, like our our tagline is "It's us," right? And that's really it's about us. And so we started doing the something we call a deck check before the games, and we would just go out onto the Waldron deck and just talk to fans and just bring people into it, because at the end of the day, that's really what we are. And so we take that part very, very serious, man. But I definitely feel like I'm walking in my purpose, and you do things, and it allows you to live comfortably and support yourself, but also it's something that you really, really enjoy doing. And so I have to remind myself even sometimes about the language that I use in terms of I'll be like, man, I got to go up to Halas Hall today, or I got to yada yada yada. It's like, man, I get to go to Halas Hall today. You know what I mean? I have to check myself on that. Like, you get to do that, bro. Like if this was 5 years ago, you know what I'm saying, I'll be smacking myself in the face saying, I gotta go to Halas. Like, man, don't ever let it get to that space. And so sometimes you just kind of got to remind yourself that, like, that drive ain't that long, the traffic ain't that bad. Like you get to do something really, really dope that I've always wanted to do. And so, man, I appreciate you. I appreciate you saying that. I appreciate y'all saying everything that y'all said about me. I'm like, who they talking about? But I
Yeah.
appreciate it, man.
Yeah, I think a lot of times what happens is we're in the moment, and a lot of times, like I always draw the analogy of being kind of in the fish tank. You're in the fish bowl, and you don't get a chance to. You're experiencing it,
Yeah.
so you don't get a chance to stop and smell the fires, and right. And
Yeah.
it's people like it's players now, right, that call me up and they be like, "Coach, man, like, I'll give you a great example." So I also had Deontay Johnson, right, who plays for
Mm-hmm.
the Pittsburgh
Yeah.
Steelers, and I think it's about 4 or 5 years ago. Deontay like text me was like, Coach, I remember the conversation we had. A lot of people don't know Deontay was a quarterback up to his senior year, but we
Okay.
just so happened to get a kid by the name of Devin Black who just finished up, I think, his senior year, just graduated from Bethune-Cookman, who came in as a freshman, and the dude was just a better quarterback, right?
Yeah.
And Deontay was like, hey, it's my senior year. Like, I'm the quarterback. And we were like, hey, man, like, if we had to have an honest conversation with him. But I remember putting my arm around Deontay and saying, look, man, dude, you got all the talent in the world. You know what I'm saying? And most
Yeah.
important message that I gave him at that moment was, dude, God has a plan, right? He had no offers up through his senior year, and we got a late call from Toledo. Hey, we like the kid, goes Toledo, starts as a freshman, right? Now, mind you, he didn't want to play. He didn't want to play wide receiver his senior year. Goes out, has over 1,700 yards receiving,
Of
runs
course.
back over 13 kicks and punts for touchdowns between
That's nasty.
kickoffs and punt returns,
That's
and
nasty.
just lights up the scoreboard. Goes up to Toledo, starts as a freshman, balls out as a sophomore, second round pick by the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Now
You
he
see what
just
I'm
caught
saying? Like,
120 balls or something, right?
Yep.
right. You know
Now
what
he's
I'm saying?
balling out in Pittsburgh.
Right.
Those type of experience. By the way, he's a free agent next year, and it'll be crazy to have two former Bears players, former players on the Bears team. I'm just saying it. I'm putting that in. I'm putting that in the atmosphere right now.
Bring him home. Bring him
You
home.
got what you got for him, Swift?
I've seen it. First I wanted to say, man, I was just like you as a kid, man. I'd watch the draft the same on Saturday morning. I still have that notebook here somewhere too. Every team,
Yeah.
man, I'd write down what college they went to, where they went from, and then I'd usually put a plus or a minus by it, whether or not I liked it. I remember one of the biggest ones was when Randy Moss fell down the board when I was younger, and he fell down to like number 18. That was every pick. I think we took like David Terrell that draft or something. So we took a wide receiver. Every pick, I'm just like, someone's got to take Moss, man. Someone's got to take Moss. But a couple questions I seen in the chat here. How do you being who you are, you're a younger black man, and you're in
Mm-hmm.
a room full of all those older white guys who kind of
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying anything negative about those guys, and like you said, I respect Brad Biggs and all those guys a ton, but
Yeah.
you do bring a different flavor and a different energy, and your questions are more real. How do you keep from kind of being influenced by the negativity of national media and kind of what other questions other guys ask?
I don't worry about it, to be honest with you. And I hate to give a simple answer to the question because it's a good question, but I just don't worry about it, man. I just try to show up and be my authentic self every single day. Kind of going back to what I was saying earlier about my purpose, and I feel like it's my responsibility to show up and be authentic every single day. Like I could come in there and I could dress a certain way. I could come in there, I could talk a certain way. I could walk a certain way. I could code switch and do all these different kind of things. I'm more than capable of doing it. I've talked for a living my whole life. Um, I'm capable of doing those things, but I think that it is my responsibility to show up in that space authentically. You know what I mean? And just be. And I think that
Yes, sir.
initially that may be off-putting, right? That may be like, who is the
Right.
young dude who keep coming in here in hoodies with his hat backwards, or he got tattoos now? Like, who is this dude? And I think that while that may be the initial reaction as soon as you see me, once you hear my work or you see me work, you see how I move in the space, it's just like, oh, he's just as good as us, if not better than some of us. And I think that that's really what it boils down to. And so I try to be intentional about making sure that I'm not seen as some exceptional black dude. I'm not an exceptional black dude. I'm a black dude from 71st and Jeffrey. You know what I mean? Like any other black dude from 71st and Jeffrey. And so I don't want to be like, yo, he's exceptional. I'm not exceptional. I'm the same, right? And I
Right.
and I think that if I can show up and present the same way, then it'll kind of kill some of the narratives and stereotypes about what a person who looks like me, dresses like me, walks like me, and talks like me can actually do in this industry. And so I just kind of remind myself of that. Again, like you said, I respect those guys. They do dope work. The Dan Reader was of the world. I really Hub Arkish. We've developed a really cool relationship. I think all of those guys are really, really dope. But I just got to be me. I can't be a 60-year-old white dude. I'm not. You know what I mean? So I just be me.
No, that's great, man, and that's kind of what you got to be yourself. And then I think one of the biggest things everybody kind of wonders is you were there last year, so do you feel there's a different energy in the room now? How do you feel the energy and like the excitement is? Because I know me and Coach T, we've talked, and we're not the pessimistic fans. We're excited. We love the way Poles
Mm-hmm.
is building and having Justin Fields finally for the first time. We got a quarterback that we can be excited about. Do you feel a different energy inside there, inside the locker room?
You can definitely feel like it's a bit of a reset. I would say that it's cautious optimism at this point. I don't think anybody's like, yo, they finna go out here and light the world on fire. But I do think that people are just kind of seeing a little bit more competence and a little bit more realistic understanding about who you are. I think one of Matt Nagy's biggest downfalls was his inability to reconcile the team that he actually had on the field with the team that he had in his head. And he wanted to be the Chiefs' offense, which is fine. It's a great offense to want to be if you got Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and Cheetah, and if you got those pieces, cool. If you don't, that doesn't mean you can't win football games. It just means you can't win them that way. And
Right.
he refused to try and win them in a different way. And I think it's been refreshing to hear from Luke Getsy, from Eberflus, just that they are going to tailor what they do to the players that they have. And I think that's
Exact
that's a
opposite of what
characteristic that
Nagy
you
was doing.
see
Yeah.
in any good coach, right? You look at the Patriots over the years. If they got to throw it 50 times a game, they'll throw it 50 times a game. If they got to run it 50 times a game, they'll run it 50 times a game. Don't matter. We just got to win the game. Don't matter how we win. There's more than one way to skin a cat. And I think that it is refreshing to hear Luke Getsy say, I'm going to make sure that this offense is about highlighting the things that these players do well. It would have been very easy for him to be like, okay, we finna duplicate the Packers offense. Well, that's fine, but if you got 12 behind you, and I'm not saying Justin Fields can't develop into that, but I think 12 is the most talented quarterback I've ever seen. And so I think that you can't just duplicate those types of things. And it's refreshing to hear, just understanding exactly where you are in the process. So I think everybody's kind of cautiously optimistic, recognizing the things that they're doing, taking the plan as it is. A lot of people were upset about, Poles and how he executed the draft, and he should have got a receiver here, he should have got a receiver there, or he should have, dove deeper into the wide receiver market in free agency. But I think that he's kind of stuck to his plan. The Bears didn't have a lot of cap space this year, and they didn't have a lot of draft capital either coming into it, and so they kind of held pat and let the board kind of fall as it did. And so I think that he's sticking to his plan in terms of what Poles is doing. I think Eberflus is trying to implement his culture, and so far, I would give them positive grades on what they've done so far. We're gonna kind of have to wait and see in terms of what the production looks like on the field. But so far, so good. I agree.
I think Herb, and I don't know if you familiar with kind of our niche, right? So the niche that we kind of found in Bears DIY media, right, and how me and Swift come together, right? We almost try to replicate somewhat, if we can, NFL type of dynamic, right? Organizational structure, right?
Mm-hmm.
Swift focuses on player personnel and research. That's how I found him, right? He dives into these guys' past, like he
He
know what
definitely
they
be having all the stuff.
right, yeah. He know what they ate for breakfast, right? And then
Right.
I try to bring that into an X's O's phase of it, right? But I want to take a step back. Even this off season, right? I gave the Bears organization credit from going for what I like to call, like, I have corporate experience, obviously. So moving from that hierarchical organizational structure to more of a flat organizational structure, and bringing more people in, even with the search. Like, have you experienced or you feel a dynamic shift even with that? Like, it's more flat, it's more collaborative in their approach than it just being this hierarchy, because a lot of people love to go in on the McCaskies and saying, like, they're like dictators. I like the new approach, but how does it feel like around the organization in the room?
Well, I think that I think again, so far so good, but I stopped just short of heaping too much praise on them because I mean there hasn't been anything for them to drop the ball on so far. I mean everybody's like, oh, they nailed the press conference. I've never seen a new head coach not nail the press conference, maybe except
Right.
one. But like I've never really seen that happen. So of course they did well at the press conference. They went through free agency with the plan that they had. They only had so much cap space. They did the things that they could do. They went into the draft. They had their plan. I thought they stuck to the board really well. I thought they did a really, really good job in acquiring more picks as the draft went on. But in terms of, what that's going to look like, I don't know just yet. You know what I mean? So I do think that they are on the right path. I do respect them for sticking to their guns. But in terms of an organizational change, I don't know because we heard, Ryan, I was about to say Ryan Poles, Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy always talked about, conviction and collaboration. We're in collaboration and we had conviction about this decision. We had conviction about that decision. And it's like, okay, y'all collaborate and y'all were convicted about everything, right? And it still never really panned out. And so, I do see, them talking about being, more collaborative and Ian Cunningham and Matty Eberflus and everybody involved in that process. But until, the bullets are live, it's real easy to love or your organization in the spring. Everybody, hope springs eternal, right? Like, so everybody's like, right now, it's all good. When those bullets get live and you got to go to Lambeau come week 2, everybody's gonna be like, man, Ryan Poles ain't, you know what I mean? It's like, so we just kind of got to wait and see.
I think I tried to stay away from last season. I got pegged at one point as a Nagy apologist. It's just I got tired of hearing on every show about Nagy, and then for somebody that's system schematic driven, right? You want to know X's and O's. Even last year, like it was refreshing to hear you ask the questions because they would tip their hand kind of with the questions that you ask, like, and I get the feeling, like I listen for that, right? When you ask a question that's schematic driven, right? I actually listen for that because as a coach, I'm looking at the tape, bro. I'm seeing you in single high. You either in man or cover 3 or cover 3 match. Like I can look at the screen and tell what you in for the most part. So having somebody like you come around and ask a question like you asked Jalen, right? And you describe the play. So it makes sense. And I actually tweeted this week in response to your question. I said, well, I was like, that was a great question and a great answer. That was informative. Jalen said, hey, I have to trail, right? I have to trail so I can take less chances. So I'm thinking in my head, okay, we're going to Tampa 2 defense, which primarily likes to play too high.
Now the ball's in front of him.
Top, right? Yeah, he's going to high help over the top now. And if my boy balls out on the other side and they develop that chemistry and that trust, now he's going to say, and that, that communication, now he can say, look, I got help over the top because I like to play single high coverage, right? Which left the corners out on the island a lot. But now he can say, look, I got safety help over the top. I don't care. You know what I'm saying? I don't care. If I see something, see ball, hit ball, attack ball, like
go get it.
Like, you know what I'm saying?
He could do those plays like Herb was talking about at the beginning. I remember that play from last year against Minnesota where it was a cross route. They ran crossers across and kind of with a guy like Kyler Gordon and Brisker on the other side now, you think, obviously rookies, then this is why, like you said, cautious optimism. You got rookies out there. They're going to make mistakes. They're not going to come in and be Pro Bowlers day one. But having guys like that to work with Jalen Johnson, our secondary just gets me so excited. And then to your point about Getsy and Nagy, Getsy, the one thing I like is any coach can say it. All coaches say it. Hey, we're gonna put our players in a position to succeed.
Right.
But being Bears fans, we saw Nagy. He never did that. He'd say, look, I'm going to change the way you play so you fit my system.
Right.
And just having a coach that is willing to work hard and put the players in a position to succeed, I think it's going to be world changing as far as how our offense looks this year. And obviously, success is it's going to take time. It's going to be a learning curve anytime you switch coaches and do that, and you're having guys buy in. But just hearing those things, if we can see it on the field, it's going to be a new era in Chicago, and I'm
Yeah,
excited for it.
I think it matters. I think there's absolutely a formula for the Bears to be successful this year. I think that it's going to start with that defense. So if they can get that defense up to speed as quickly as possible, that's going to give them a chance to, at least remain in every game. I think the offense will take some time to come along, but I think that until the offense starts to click on all cylinders, the defense can kind of keep them in the games. I think they have, the ability to get after the pass rusher with Robert Quinn. I think Travis Gibson is ready to take another step forward. I think they really like their linebacking core, and the secondary should be vastly improved. I like, Kyler Gordon, and I like Jaquan Brisker too, and Elijah Hicks, who may, factor more into
I
that
love that
competition
kid.
than some people think. But I think that, if they can kind of solidify that defense, and I think that's what the cover two allows you to do. It just allows you to learn it very, very as quickly as possible. It simplifies everybody's job. You're doing this or you're doing that. And that's from the front four all the way to the back end. I think like everybody understands exactly what you're doing. And I think that allows you to play fast. It allows you to think a little bit less, except for the nickel. The nickel spot is there's a lot going on at nickel in the cover two. And I think that who plays that is going to be important. I guess it's going to probably be between Duke Shelly and Thomas Graham, but I think that that's going to be.
My guy is Tavon Young for that one.
You think so?
Yeah, I think Tavon Young. I think
Okay.
he's the nickel.
Okay.
I told you, Swift is the player personnel guy, man.
Right. Hey, I won't dispute it. Whoever takes that spot is going to be in a key role. I remember when Lovey was here. He specifically coached the nickel. Like that was his position group. He would coach the nickel, and he was trying to get like guys like DJ Moore up to speed to be able to play that nickel spot. And I think that that's going to be a critical part of it. But if that defense can get together, I think that I like what the offense is doing in terms of putting the emphasis on running the football, bringing in a fullback. I think that's going to be really, really helpful for the Bears. Running that outside zone is going to be allow them again to kind of play fast, not think so much. I think that those are things that are going to help them kind of. They're going to have to play a ball control game and a field position game. So if they can win time of possession, if they can get at least 35 minutes every game or close to that 35-minute mark every game, that's going to give them a chance to be in the game down the stretch. They need to take the ball away defensively, protect it offensively. Obviously, those are things that everybody needs to do. But when you're not an explosive offense, running the ball, controlling the clock, playing time of possession, that is a formula for the Bears to be successful. I know a lot of people aren't expecting much from the Bears this year, but I think they could surprise some people if they understand what their formula is and play it well.
Yeah, I think you're right, Herb. I don't think it's going to be like sexy. One thing I do like about the overall system, like Tampa 2 as a principle, right? It gets 11 eyes on the ball, right? And I got some flack kind of last season and probably towards the latter part of the season, right? Because I try to explain to my followers kind of what happens in the locker room, on the field, on the football field in general, right? So Thomas Graham Jr., everybody was like, Nagy's trash. This dude was on the bench forever. He was on the bench. They didn't find talent. They don't know how to observe talent. And I'm like, bro, listen, in football, when you are the third and fourth string guy, listen, you're not getting 100% like speed reps in practice. Like the week is not time to show your talent, right? So when he came out and ball, one of the things I saw on tape is I said, listen, man, this guy can't play in odd number coverages. He can't play single high safety, cover three, single high safety, or man match. If he has to turn and run with a wide receiver, he's gonna get cooked. And it happened versus Seattle. But then we go Tampa 2, and I say, all right, so Swifty has his guy. I don't know a lot about the guy that Swifty called out, but I'm looking for Graham Jr. to thrive into this system where he gets to keep his eyes on the backfield, reads eyes of the quarterback, and kind of fill those gaps. I think we have a lot of competition on the back end. What I'm concerned about is primarily that front seven, because in order for you to stay in too high safety, you have to win with 7 up front. That means you have to get home with 4, and that front 7 have to win, or else the opponent's going to force you out of too high safety, right? If you're getting 8 up on the ground, you know what I'm saying, that's going to force you to bring a man in the box. How do you feel about what we have right now on that front 7 being able to play ball with just that front 7?
Yeah, I think anytime your front 7 loses the likes of a Khalil Mack and a Kane Hicks and Eddie Goldman,
I don't personally see how you get better by doing that, right? I understand the moves. I'm not knocking the moves. I know why they did it.
Right.
But in terms of does that make you a better front seven? That's a tough argument for me to make. I
Yeah.
think that Eddie Goldman is an immovable object at nose tackle, and I think that when you talk about stopping the run, you need a guy like that. Now, can Kyrus Tonga develop into something like that? Perhaps. I think he's a really, really strong kid. I think that if he can anchor himself and play with better pad level, that he can become a guy that's really, really tough to move off his spot, and he can take on two guys. And I think that's what the cover two is asking you to do. How
Right.
can these D tackles eat up? Can they eat? Can my two D tackles
Eat up
eat up the
block.
three interior linemen? Right. If they can eat
Right.
up those three guys with these two, now Roquan can run around. Now Morrow can run around. And I think that that'll allow those guys to make plays and kind of penetrate the backfield and get some TFLs and those types of things. So I think that they do have some intriguing pieces. We'll have to find out what's going on with Justin Jones. I've watched a lot of tape on him. I've heard a lot of different things about him, and a lot of people are high on him and have some really good expectations of him. But I think that when you talk about this cover two, the three technique is key. I mean, it's only been a few guys who've done that at an elite level to really be able to disrupt and dominate the game the way you need a three technique to do in this particular defense. I mean, it's hard to find the Warren Sapps of the world, even the Tommy Harrises of the world. Like that's a difficult thing to
Right.
find. I don't know that he's that guy. But if you can get some production out of him and just find a rotation that works for you, I think that'll help. But I do think that most of the success in terms of that front seven is going to come down to, can Robert Quinn have some semblance of the season that he had last year, and can Travis Gibson continue to ascend as a pass rusher this year? And so I think that if we can get those things from those two guys, and I think that the front seven is in a pretty good position. I think Roquan Smith will be all over the field. I think he's going to love playing the cover two. Whether they put him at Mike, put him at Will, I don't know which one they're going to put him at just yet. But I think that those two guys should be able to run around and make plays if the front four can kind of keep bodies off of them. Neither one of those guys are big. We talk about Smith and Morrow. Neither one of those are big guys, but they're fast guys. They're instinctive guys, and they can shoot those gaps and make those plays. So I'm excited about what the defense can do. They're going to have to prove it. They're going to have to gel quickly. I do like the traits that Thomas Graham brings too. I think he is a ball hawk, and I think because of that, that's what kind of left him susceptible when he's got to turn and run, because he's got his eyes in the backfield and he's trying to jump on things. But I think the cover two is kind of more predicated to that. Now, what happens when you send a guy straight across the field? You know what I mean? I don't know that he can run with him like that.
Yeah.
And that may leave him susceptible to get beat. I mean, in that 14 to 17 yard range on those crossers. You know what I mean? He gets behind the linebacker. He's trying to trail. I don't know, how he's going to do in that, but I do think that the ball in front of him, he can make plays.
So there's another dynamic, right? And again, the other part of this channel, actually what we were supposed to do this week, where I was actually supposed to start building my version of Luke Getsy's playbook this week. Before
Okay.
I actually, yeah. So because we've been researching for months, like what he runs, we dived into his history, Joe Moorhead. We understand, they've been saying outside
what tree
zone.
he comes from.
Yeah. So they've been saying a lot about outside zone, but I know as a coach,
I saw you tweeted that you thought that might be coach speaking, just kind of throwing him off the trail a little bit.
Because I know my personality, I know all my coach friends, right? I'm not telling my mama what I run. You hear me? I'm not gonna get on the podium and be like, oh yeah, we're gonna run a whole lot of outside zone, blah blah. I'm not telling my mama what I run. But what I will concede to them is this, right? Outside zone, and this is what I'm gonna draw up probably next week. Outside inside zone or checking to a zone play is an easy audible. So say I come up to the line of scrimmage, I see two high safety, right? I see a 7-man box. That's an easy check. Hey, Justin, you go back. You don't like the play. You see two high safety. You can't get a read on the safety. Which one's coming down? Which one's staying back? Hey, just check the outside zone. Run it. Boom. You know what I'm saying? Blue whatever, 37 stretch or whatever they're going to call it, and run the play and get yourself out of a bad play and live to fight another down. That's what I would do. But, you know what I'm saying? The other piece that I want to emphasize for our audience is, right, we keep saying we're going to Tampa 2 defense, right? That's too high safety. They can run too high man, or they can go 2 zone, right? 2 zone or 2 man. Now, if I put one of those non-running slot, what they call them, nickel corners The one thing you try to do when you can't get vertical as an offensive coordinator, which is my background, right? If I can't
Just
get
stretch them out.
vertical, I'm gonna use all 53 and 1/3 yards wide of the field. So if I can't get vertical, I'm gonna try and use your speed going across the field. And you make a great point. Again, if he got to turn and run, I'm nervous about that, right? I'm nervous about that.
With
But I
Thomas
want
Graham.
the yeah.
He has decent speed. I think he ran like a 4.49.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think most people remember him getting burnt by DK Metcalf on that play where he didn't have help over top.
He was in a bad spot. That happened to him
Yeah,
every time. Every
I
time
don't think
nigga
I
lined
don't
up
think
like
you
that,
put
Thomas.
Thomas Graham. Yeah, you don't put him 1-on-1 with DK with no help over the top in one of his first times in the NFL. But he has decent speed. I think he fits the system a lot better. And Herb made a great point. He's better at attacking the ball in front of him, and you saw that in the game he stood out last year.
Yeah.
He fits zone coverage as well. I do think he's possible. What I mentioned when I was seeing kind of where he fits down the line is I think he's a little bit better on the outside. I think in the future you could have, once Kyler Gordon gets a little bit more familiar, a little bit more comfortable in the defense, and 3 wide receiver sets, Kyler Gordon could then slide into the nickel, and you bring Thomas Graham out on his spot on the outside. I think this year, the reason why I say Tavon Young, he's kind of slept on. Tavon Young 3 years ago was the highest paid nickelback in the league. The
I keep
Ravens signed
forgetting
him to a
Tavon
huge
Young.
deal. Yeah, he's a great nickel corner. His problem is, can he stay healthy? If he's healthy, I think obviously he's got a leg up on that nickel spot this year, but he's also only signed to a 1-year deal. So when you're looking in the future, I think Thomas Graham will play more into that, and he will play this year a lot as well. But I think Tavon's kind of getting slept on a little bit.
No,
He's
I
got some
feel you.
skills.
And I think that when you talk about Kyler, I think that he certainly has that flexibility to play outside, play inside. And I asked Alan Williams, the Bears DC, if they were, looking into cross training him that way, or if they would just kind of focus on one. He's like, right now we see him on the outside. We like his flexibility and think he can do that, but it probably behooves them right now to just let him focus on one thing.
Yeah,
They're trying to get him on the outside right
Because
now.
you need him to be your outside corner. Like if it was like a luxury pick, it's like, okay, we can here or there, cool. But you need him to come in and be a productive number 2 corner for you. So I think that, from draft day through the end of the season, just let him focus on that. But I do think ultimately he may have some of that flexibility. Tavon is a very, very interesting case. When you talk about his past production and his injury history. I also like Duke Shelly in this thing. Now, I know we talked about Thomas Graham and Tavon, but I like Duke Shelly in this thing too because Duke Shelly is a really, really physical nickel corner. He likes to come up and hit. He likes to make plays in the backfield on running backs, physical enough to come up and hit receivers, those type of things. Again, he's another guy who kind of struggles going backwards, but going forward, I think he's an aggressive guy who'll come up and make plays on the ball, bust up those bubble screens. He's that kind of guy. So I think that it's going to be a really, really good competition, to see whoever comes out of that nickel spot. But I think whoever does come out of it, they'll be playing really, really good ball. They'll have to have a really good spring, good summer, good preseason. So whoever does end up winning that job, I'll feel pretty confident with them going into the season.
Herb, let's flip sides of the ball, right? Similarly to how the front seven of the defense affects their ability to play the primary coverage they want to play, which is too high, man, or zone, right? That front seven, if they getting whipped on the run, they're going to bring down the man in the box. But if we go to the other side of the ball, and I somehow got pegged as an offensive line specialist. No, I'm a football coach. Anyway,
it's just because you're a big guy, coach. That's it.
Yeah, they like to put the big guy. They like to put the big guy as offensive line coach already.
You go coach the O lineman. Like, hold on, I coach receivers. Like,
I coach everything, man. Anyway,
right.
So similar to how that front seven affects their ability to play the defense. I want to start with the offensive line, right? Because on the offense, because that's what the way I teach it is the offense is a vehicle. That offensive line is the engine. You know what I'm saying? If I only got half the line that can, can really play, and more importantly, in pass protection, if I only have a front 5, only 3 of those guys can win one-on-one battles. That's turning a V6 into a 4-banger. You know what I'm saying? With a thrown rod, right? You know what I'm saying? It can't move the way it's supposed to be, right? So How do you feel about, because we're trying to find, I feel like this offense is going to thrive if we can find 5 guys that can win one-on-one in pass protection, or 5 versus 4, 5 versus 5, right? 5 guys that can win, because a lot of times last year, when you watch the film, one of the problems was we had to use Cole Kmet and a running back in with chips and helps and delays all the time. That reduces your number of eligible receivers, right? Now you have 3 guys versus 7 DBs or linebackers. What are your thoughts on us being able to actually lock in 5 guys from the group that we have that can win one-on-one battles?
I'm not that confident in it, to be honest with you. That's not to say that they can't be productive or they can't execute and win. But in terms of finding 5 guys off this roster that are going to be able to hold up one-on-one in pass pro or even one-on-one in run blocking, I don't really see that. I think right now in this league, D linemen, pass rushers, whatever you want to call them, edge guys, they're the most athletic guys in the league right now. I can remember when the freak came into the league, a guy like Javon Curse was like, who is this dude? This is crazy, right? And because at that time, DN, they looked like Bruce Smith or they looked like Reggie White and Hall of Fame guys, but just a different body type now. And I think now all of these guys, they now look like Javon Curse and JPP. They are freakish athletes. And I think that, you got to have some really, really talented guys to be able to combat them. Now, I don't know if the Bears have any elite linemen. They have guys. I like Cody Whitehair, right? I think that Lucas Patrick will be fine. I think that we got to find out and wait and see what we got in the 2 young tackles if Tevin Jenkins and Larry Borum are. But in terms of if I'm the quarterback, am I like, yeah, let all those guys go one-on-one? I don't feel comfortable with that. But again, if they can gel, the sum of the parts can be better than each individual. You know what I mean? And so I think that it's just about the coach kind of putting them in best positions. And that's why I think the outside zone is going to be effective for them, right? Everybody kind of moving as one. You let David Montgomery press, stick his foot, find his hole, and go. And I think he's really, really good at doing that. I also think that what that is going to allow you to do as you kind of stretch that thing outside is then allow for Justin to have naked boots back the other way, right? And so if you can hit a couple of runs early in the game where you're stretching that thing this way and you get that defense kind of leaning, and then now Justin put that thing in there, pull it back, he boots out, now he's alone, right? He's got a DN that cannot beat him to the edge, right? And he's out there alone. You got a linebacker or a safety or whatever kind of in that no man's land. Do I come up and attack him? And if he does, you dump it over his head. If he sits back, you take the 10 and 12 yards that's in front of you. I think Justin can be able to do that all year long. And I think that, again, that's going to play into them being able to stay ahead of the chains, play ball control offense. Just can we pick up a couple first downs? Can we keep the ball? Nothing wrong with punting. Nothing wrong with punting. Every drive should end in points or a punt. That's it. If every drive ends in points or a punt, that's a win. And so I think that, allowing, the offensive line to kind of move together as a unit and then play off of them. Understand who they are. I think, again, just understand who they don't have to be the Dallas Cowboys line of the 90s. They don't have to be that. Right. They can still be serviceable and productive if you understand who they are. Now, I think that it would be a mistake to put them in one-on-one pass pro, right? I don't think that that's what you have, but they can still be successful. I think that if you want to hit some deep routes, then you should probably leave it back in. You should probably leave a tight end in and max pro that thing. But I think they can come together for sure. I think you can have a really, really good O-line without even having a single Pro Bowler. I don't think the Bears have a Pro Bowler on this line, right? And unless Larry Borum or Tevin Jenkins is one of those guys. I do think they have to figure out what's going on at right guard. I like Sam Mustipher. I think he's a smart kid. I think he's a football guy, but I think he's grossly undersized at right guard.
So it's well documented.
Mustipher not starting. Yeah, no, I don't see it.
I saw Swifty shake his head when you mentioned Sam Mustipher.
Yeah. He was like, I don't like Mustipher.
Listen, so Herb, it's well documented, right? It's well documented, and when you got some free time, if you ever have free time, check out one of the videos I did on Tevin Jenkins or Larry Borum.
For sure, send it to me, bro.
I have empirical visual evidence that says Tevin can win his one-on-one battles, right?
Okay.
I was impressed by it. I was shocked. I didn't expect to see it. And the guy coming off injury, I think the first few games Green Bay, they were like, no, I'm not going to leave you on the island. But again, I go inside my head, right? And I've said this on Twitter many a times. I wouldn't like a freshman left or right tackle in high school, and I wouldn't like a rookie left or right tackle in the NFL. It's just too much you haven't seen, right? But
Only been a few of those come in and succeed.
Yeah, and I think they kind of walked the dog with Tevin last year, right? Coming off injury. The Green Bay game, they helped him a lot. And you saw he was actually more confused with the help. The running back got in his way more than he helped him. So eventually he must have went to the sideline and be like, look, get this guy out of my way. And then you start to see in Minnesota game, he dominated his one-on-ones. I think if we go left to right, they might be good up till center. I like Tyree. I just like his raw skills. Carter, the guard.
Sure.
I like his raw skills. I like his body. I like his build. I think it's a confidence thing. If he gets in there, it's almost like the conversation we had earlier. He got to forget about, hey, I played at a HBCU, blah, 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 blah. I'm a ball player, and go in there and just ball. And if you start talking right tackle, I watched the film of every game during the season in Borum, and I got a lot of flack for him. I go watch the video. It's the video.
I like Larry Borum.
I can't listen. As an offensive coordinator, I want to block 5-on-5. I want to block 5-man protection, except when I'm going deep, like you said.
Yeah.
Except when I'm going deep, I'm not. That's not my dude. So I'm hoping one of those other guys beat him out.
Whew.
I hope one of those other.
I won't necessarily argue with your assessment of Larry Borum. I will say that, early in the season in training camp, I thought he was progressing well. He had the injury and it kind of set him back a little bit. I think that he can be well. And maybe they'll end up even flipping those guys. I don't know, right? I will say this, though.
Don't tell me that.
If Tevin Jenkins and Larry Borum are not your tackles, you're in trouble, bro.
Yeah.
You're in trouble. Like, if you think you're going to find one of these, 6th and 7th round picks or undrafted free agents, that's not to knock those guys to say they can't, right? But if you talk about not wanting a rookie to come in and be your right tackle, even if he's your 1st or 2nd round pick, if he's your 7th round pick from Southern Utah,
well, listen, I don't mind that right. I don't mind that.
Carter's a guard.
I'm not putting the rookie on the blind side of my franchise quarterback, right? That's my biggest concern. Because think about it, if I have a decent guy, if I have a solid guy on the left side, on the back side, right? If I have a guy that struggles with pass pro on Justin's in his visual, Justin's quick enough, he sees it coming, he can do his thing and get out of there, right? But if he can't see it coming, he's gonna be on the training table. That's my concern, right? So
yeah, but a lot of that is on him too. Like we saw, even everybody remember the hit in the preseason against Buffalo. That came from his face. That came from his right side. You know what I mean? That didn't even come from behind him. Sometimes you just gotta, as a quarterback, you gotta protect yourself first, right? So you gotta get up to the line of scrimmage. You gotta read that defense, and you gotta say, hey, we sliding left, we sliding right, we max proing, we got a hot route over here, whatever. You gotta protect yourself first. And so I get it, but I think that a lot of that is going to be on Justin too.
Well, so let's stay in there. We say this real quick, Swift, and then you can take over.
My bad.
No, you good. You make a great point and a great segue to talking about Justin, because I did a film breakdown on him too, right? I think Justin can read coverages man through cover 4, right? And I just kept it at 1 through 4, right? Cloud coverage, cover 4. He can read cover 2. He made the beautiful throw versus Green Bay versus cover 2 zone, the bucket drop between the corner and the safety. So he can make all the throws. The two criticism I have of Justin is Justin, and it's a lot. You're a rookie, bro. I get it. It's a lot. You gotta learn the whole offense, and then that offense versus different looks, right? But the one thing that I want to see him gain more experience on is his ability to pick up and adjust protections, right? However we do it, right? Whether the center makes the call or he influences the call from the quarterback position, because you're right, that hit he took versus Buffalo, it was an indicator that he doesn't recognize blitzes and doesn't know how to slide protection, right? You come up, you see that guy, you give one of the videos, you give a rain call, right? Rain call moves everybody right. You go 3 by 1. Right. 3 guys slide right, 2 guys slide left, you pick it up. But if he's not there yet, and the other thing he does this, man, watch the film. I reached out to his actual quarterback coach who lives here in Atlanta, Quincy Avery, because I care about my team. I said, Quincy, do you guys practice going on different snap counts? This dude goes on one every time. That helps the defense.
For sure.
Now, think about Aaron, right? As much as we hate Aaron, right? Use him as a great example. You know Aaron's secret weapon on how he gets people to jump and gets a free play? It's not necessarily to get a free play. What it is to get the defense to reveal who's coming and who's not. So if they can work on him and getting his snap, mixing up his snap count, going hard count, reveal who's actually blitzing, come back, adjust your protection, run your play. So what's your thoughts? What you seeing?
Yeah, I think that I agree with you. I think that, you know, he's gotten to the point certainly where he understands exactly what's happening to him pre-snap. He's able to read the defense. He's able to understand what they're trying to do to him pre-snap. I think the next step in his development is going to be understanding and quickly deciphering what happens to him post-snap.
Yeah.
And being able to make those adjustments in real time. I think that, you know, he may see, you know, zone and then snap, it's man, and they bring in pressure, right? Or he may see pressure and they drop in the zone. And I think that when that happened to him last year, you can kind of see him going through that extra hitch and just trying to figure out, okay, what am I seeing? What's happening? And you don't have that luxury in the National Football League. You just don't.
I was at the Tampa game and he got baptized.
Yeah. You don't have that luxury. And so I think that the quicker he can go, okay, here's what I see pre-snap, and make his calls, make his checks, do whatever you're going to do, and then snap the ball and say, oh, shit, here's what's actually happening, and then be able to adjust on the fly. I think that's going to be the kind of the next step in his development. But I think he's a football guy. I think he wants to be great. I think he puts the time in. So I do think that he will, you know, make that next step. But I think it's right now it's about what happens to him post-snap, even more so than what happens to him pre-snap. Although he's learning a new offense, which kind of takes him a little bit of a step back. Not back to step one. Anytime you've had, you know, 10, 11 stars under your belt, you know, in the league, that's better than step one. But, you know, you learn a new system second time in 2 years. It's a little bit of a step back. But I think that, you know, if he can figure out that post-snap, he'll be all right.
Go ahead, Swift. I didn't mean to step on you, bro.
Those some great points, man. My biggest thing with that, Justin got a lot of flack on that last year for the failed to recognize the blitz. My biggest thing with that, and I don't know what you guys think about this, but he wasn't prepared. One, Nagy didn't prepare him right. He wasn't getting the snaps in preseason. He wasn't working with Mustafa. He was working with a second team. And then also, that's my other thing about Musty right there, is probably not the guy you want calling out the plays. And I think I think having Patrick Allen or Lucas Patrick here is going to be a huge benefit to Justin Fields, having a guy who's experienced in making those calls. And then I see Doug Kramer is actually, he's called our backup center now. I think he's called plays for 5 straight years at Illinois. And he was good at it. So that's where a lot of people think Mustafa is going to be guard. I don't see Mustafa making the team, honestly, unless we keep 3 centers. I think that right guard spot's going to be between Zachary Thomas, the rookie, Jatiri Carter, the rookie, Dakota Dozier, you can maybe play in there. And then my other sleeper for that spot is maybe moving Larry Borum to right guard. I like Larry Borum. My thing right now is I'm wondering if Poles and Cunningham envision him as a tackle in the future. Every single tackle they brought in had 35-plus inch arms. That's Davenport, the guy who people are forgetting about. I think Davenport, who started the first 6 games for the Colts last year and looked good. He started like 20 games tackle. I think he could come in and start and not get you killed early in the season while Braxton Jones develops. But I think one of those guys are going to be the right guard. I don't think Mustafa has a shot.
Swifty said every one of the guys got 34, 35-inch arms. I told you, Swifty can tell you what they ate for breakfast, man.
No, that's a deep dive, and that's important because it tells you, you know, the traits that the GM looks for at certain positions. And so if some guy is an outlier, it's like, you're probably going to be like he clearly doesn't. You don't have the traits that he's clearly looking for. And so I think that that's a very, very astute observation from Swift. Like I think that's important. I don't know, man. I feel like Kramer, if one of those guys hasn't started right guard, I would give Kramer probably an upper hand just because he has so much experience. He's played, he's been a starter for so long, and you slide him over there, and just let him play next to Lucas. And I think that, you know, maybe he can be the guy. I don't know if the answer is on the roster at right guard right now. I don't know. In terms of kicking Larry inside, maybe that works. Then I think you got another problem at outside. I think they got to figure this thing out. I think that if they can figure it out just specifically at right guard without altering too many other things, I think that would probably be the best way. But you ultimately got to find the best solution, and Larry Bourne might be the best solution. That would just kind of create a little bit of another problem for you, where you get one of these young kids, you know, on the right side too, and it's not ideal. It is not ideal, but I know for sure that you can't go into the season. At least I don't think you can go into the season at right guard with Sam
Right.
Mustipher there. And I asked the O-line coach that, and I'm blanking on his name right now, but I asked him that just last week. We had an opportunity to talk to all the offensive assistants, and I asked him flat out if he thought that, you know, Sam Mustipher was too small to play right guard or to succeed at right guard in this league. And of course, he said no. You know, he thinks that, you know, he can have some success there. And he compared him to a guy that he coached before, and Andy Levitri, just in terms of size, right? And being able to succeed at that position at that size. But just looking at Sam Mustipher, I mean, he was an undersized center, right? And it's okay
Right.
to be a bit of an undersized center. Undersized guard, not so much. But even as an undersized center, looking at him standing next to Lucas, it was like, yo, Lucas is way bigger than him. Like way bigger than him. So they run their first five out there, and he's right next to him, and he's standing right there. It's like, yo, he's way bigger than dude. Just looking at him, I don't know. Never mind what they listed at. Just looking at him, he's way bigger than him. And you're gonna put him at right guard. It's like, I don't know that he's stopping 330 pounds from coming through the B guy. I don't know that. You know what I mean?
Right. So Herb, watch
That's
this.
why I'm excited to break down these rookies because Coach likes Jatiri Carter,
Yeah.
and I've heard a lot of people out there on Twitter right now. They're loving that Zachary Thomas kid.
Hey,
I think
feet.
I think I'm a little bit less worried about right guard than I am what happens at that other tackle spot across
Mm-hmm.
from Tevin Jenkins right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I always tweet this to or text this to Swifty, right? Feet, hips, hands. Evaluate them
Mm-hmm.
from the ground up, right? Feet, hips, hands, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna let you in on something. Howard, heard you probably hadn't heard this right before, and I'm a
Okay, put
bit
me
of a
on.
contrarian on this, right? I already
Uh-huh.
mentioned the fact that my doubts about us truly being an outside zone heavy team because coach gave it away, right?
Sure.
You don't give nothing away. The other part is the other part is a good segue into what y'all talking about because I think I'm the only person out on Bears DIY media, right? Based off of the research, Joe Morgan,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then also, I think what a lot of people have confused is when they throw Shanahan out there, because I'm a Shanahan nerd. He's my coaching crush, right? Kyle. What they have confused is Daddy Shanahan versus Junior.
Right.
Daddy Shanahan pioneered the inside outside zone scheme, and that was his
Mm-hmm.
thing.
Mm-hmm.
Junior is a gap power guy. And based
Mm-hmm.
off what we've been seeing and what we've been hearing, and even the type of guards we've been signing, what I'm looking for, and actually what I was going to I actually had a few plays drawn up before I delete them today, earlier this morning, was what I'm looking for us to do is run a lot of gap power style, Kyle Jr. type stuff. And what I mean by that is you have more athletic guards and they're
Mm-hmm.
pulling across formations. So you want to get your guards, your tackles moving across the formation to kind of manipulate the numbers. Also adding in a fullback, adding in a tight end. So pulling them from one side to the other side of the formation. When people talk about San Francisco's offense being physical and intimidating, that's what makes it that. The gap power system makes it like
Sure.
defenses don't want to go up against that, right? They don't. And I always remind people of a great play when somebody ran basic power play. The Marshawn Lynch run in the playoffs that shook the stadium.
Sure.
That was a basic power play. That was
Real simple. Real simple.
that, yeah, it was block down, kick out. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Follow the guard up in the hole and
Yeah.
move bodies, right? So
Yeah.
I think they're throwing smoke screens, and I don't want to be wrong. I actually want to be right on this one. I think they're throwing smoke screens. I'm gonna be honest with you. I think they're throwing smoke screens with the outside zone, blah blah blah. I think we're gonna see some guards. I think we're gonna see some linemen moving. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna see some of that stuff, but to me, it's like I think of zone. I think of zone as an offensive coordinator. I think of zone as side dishes to power, gap power. Gap power is my meat and potatoes.
Sure.
But if I'm designing an offense, I'm gonna throw some zone. I'm gonna throw some quick tosses out there just to get bodies moving, to get them tired and get guys running. But my meat and potatoes is gonna be pulling guys across the formation and being physical and being aggressive. And I actually think that style of play, it plays in Chicago in the wintertime too. Like it.
Oh yeah.
What's
No,
your
I think
thought? I'm saying that because I want you to keep an eye on it, but
no, I feel you, and it may be right. I don't necessarily think that it takes that much gamesmanship. You know what I mean? In May about outside zone, inside zone. I think the way NFL coaches and football coaches in general kind of go about that stuff is strange to me. You know what I mean? Like it's a 100-yard field. It's 53 in the third. Like it ain't that much to be done out here. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
the game is the game, and I think that when you outside zone, you inside zone, whatever you are, you power cool. I will say that one thing that kind of leads in my mind some credence to what you're saying in comparison to the 49ers offense is Kyle Juszczyk, right? And then bringing in Blasingame, I think that there's a similar skill set there because I think that Juszczyk is the most important person on that team. Right. I think that he does so much for that team in terms of being a lead blocker, in terms of catching passes out of the backfield. He turns into this pseudo tight end for you. He turns into this running back for you. But I also think that what he does most for that offense is to be an indicator of what's about to happen. And because he is such a strong indicator of what's about to happen, you can use him to deceive the defense, right? Everybody's like, hey, Juszczyk is over there. This is what's about to happen. He's over here. Here's what's about to happen. And then you
right.
break that tendency, and then they are smoked. I love what he brings to that offense, and I hope that Blasingame can bring something like that to the Bears offense. But, otherwise, I think that, however the Bears go about it, like we talk, you referenced the earthquake run. It was a very simple thing, right? Like you said, they blocked down, they kicked out, boom. It's designed to pick up 4 to 6 yards, right? And I think that, again, anytime you can get a run that design is going to get you 4 to 6 yards, that is exactly what you want. I think if the Bears can do that all year long, where they can consistently find 4 to 6 yard runs for David Montgomery, for Khalil Herbert, for Treston Devin, from whoever, right? You can get those 4 to 6 for Justin, right? If you can get those 4 to 6 yard runs, that's what you're looking for. Now, Marshawn Lynch just turned that thing into the most iconic thing ever, but it was blocked up for him to get 4 to 6 yards. And then he was like, I'll take the rest of it too. But
Yeah.
I think that's what
greedy.
you're looking for.
And the physical aspect of it also, gap power aside, is demoralizing to a defense. Like it's just, it's bludgeoning them. But you made a great point because I didn't just say, hey, you know what I'm saying? We're running gap power, right? Those that follow the channel, we actually kind of put together the statements in between press conference. Like when Ryan said we're changing styles, Poe said we're changing styles. And I remember my audience, I said, listen, it was before it happened, before the guy got signed. I don't know if Swifty remember this. I said, the sign that we're switching styles from zone to power is we're gonna sign a fullback.
Yep.
And he's gonna be a fullback that can actually block and catch. Because if you remember the old 49ers offense, the what is his name?
William Floyd?
Rathman, all those guys that the fullbacks that catch the ball out of, so they were hard hitting, blocking fullbacks, but they also pass catching, and that's that curveball. So if you run power, the counter play to the basic power play is counter. What's the answer to counter? The counter is the boot off the counter or getting the fullback out in the flat on some easy dump down. Like
he's an athletic
this is what I think
Watson
Nagy
Carver,
49ers do all that.
Yeah, they do.
You think about it.
Herb
This is
killed it
why.
with his point on Hughes check though. He's probably the most underrated guy that nobody talks about because he's not a fantasy football player and he's not in the highlights all the time, but he's the cog that makes that offense run.
Yeah,
And
he is.
that's bringing in Blasingame is something that hasn't been talked about hardly at all this offseason, but it does signal that change for us that we're going to have an identity for once, and that's exciting. Even if we only win 6 to 8 games this year, having an identity,
Mm-hmm.
something to build towards, and a quarterback of the future, like
Yeah.
you can't be upset with that.
That stuff matters, and you get him leading up on those linebackers or leading up on nickels or safeties or whomever. You get him leading up on them for 3 quarters, and then by the fourth quarter, they don't want to take that on no more.
Nobody
Like
want that smoke, bro.
that dude is solid. Like just watching him out there in shorts and t-shirts, that dude is solid. He's built, but he's also very athletic, right? You can look at him and like maybe he's just a running back, maybe he's just a big running back because you can see him how he moves in space, and so ultimately you get him banged up on those linebackers. They're going to want to come and meet him as quickly as they can. And then now he slips them, gets out into the flat. He's wide open. Take your 7, 8 yards whenever you want it. You know what I mean? I think that's, again, stay
It's
ahead of
still
the chains, time possession. You're still in 6, 7, 8 yards whenever you want it. Just letting him lead up on guys and then slip off of them, hit them in the flat. Real simple. Like the game ain't that complicated, man. It's just not. It don't have to be. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. And I think that, utilizing him in some of those ways could be very, very beneficial for the Bears. And I like how your mind is working in terms of tracking what exactly it is they want to do.
I just listen to you guys and try to steal stuff. Like I listen
Yeah,
to it.
right.
I li-
I will say this. I asked uh dang, I just lost my point about what I was trying to say. I'm sorry, never mind. It'll hit me and not interrupt you again in a
Hap-
minute.
Let me ask you this. So we touched on every position group except for tight ends, wide receiver. I think we hit on a little bit of running backs, right? So
Yeah.
a lot of flack, right? And we did it too, right? We did our pre-draft prediction breakdowns. I thought we was going tackle, wide receiver, blah blah blah. You know what I'm saying? I thought we needed I made the distinction between wide receiver one and X, right? X to
Mm-hmm.
me is a guy that can play the X and X alone. But I feel like a
Mm.
wide receiver one is a guy that plays all three positions. You kind of play three
Anywhere.
card. You
Yep.
kind of play three card Monty with that guy. I'm hiding that
Yeah.
guy in my offense. I'm making the defense account for him, right? And even though it wasn't the name brand guy, which is Ryan Poles' MO at this point, he's not going out and getting you the name brand cereal. He's getting you the
Right.
black and white box that just say cereal, right?
Cereal.
That's all you getting. You're not getting Fruit Loops. You getting
You're getting
cereal,
cereal.
right? So
You're getting the one
I
in the
think he
bag, yeah.
Right.
I think he accomplished the task, right? Bayless Jones Jr. If I'm a defense, he's not gonna get that instant respect from other defensive coordinators. But
Mm-hmm.
after he burns the first guy, other defensive coordinators are going to account for him, right? So if you're playing three card Monty with Velas, I got him at the X, I got him at the Z, I got him at the slot. Sometimes he's getting the ball on jet sweeps. You know what I'm saying? So similar to like the offensive line playing 5-man protection, I need to have me two burners at the X and Z at some point because I want to force defenses into high safety so Demo can go off, right?
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on what we got as far as wide receivers and how the guys we got are going to impact opening up the field, stretching the defense, and all that good stuff?
I think the receiving core leaves a lot to be desired. But that being said, I do think that there's some potential there that they could tap into. You talk about a guy like Bayless Jones. I think he brings an explosive component to the offense. And, they tried to do that last year with Goodwin and Bird and those types of things. It never really materialized. But I do think that he brings a speed, and you can see it, right? It's not just like he ran a 4.3 on the track in shorts. You can see that speed translate onto the football field. And he's also a bigger guy. He's not a small, diminutive guy like a Bird or a Goodwin. He's a big guy who kind of carries that weight in his pads, and it allows him to get a lot of yak, right? It allows him to break a lot of tackles. And I think that if you can get him the ball in space, bubble screens, whatever, right? Jet sweeps, like you just get him the ball and let him get out in space. And I think that it's going to be important for Bears fans and Bears coaches to understanding what they have here, right? And understand like they're going to have to win games 17-13, 13-10,
Yeah,
21-17. Like and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, right? We get so caught up in I want to score 45. Who cares if you score 45? I just want to win. You know what I mean? I don't care. We can win 3-0. I don't care at all. And I think that you can use a guy like Bayless to, again, steal that 6 and 7 yards when it's there. Stay ahead of the chains. Keep it simple for you. Make sure you find yourself second, third and short, not 3rd and 9, 3rd and 12, getting behind the chains, those kind of things. And so you use him in his speed. If they're going to back off of him, he's sitting in the slot, throw that thing out there. Let him pick up his 6. And he might break a tackle and bust that thing for you. You know what I mean? So just let it, just take what's there for you. Keep it real simple. He has the speed to be able to do it. And so get him out there in space. Let him pick up his 5, his 6, his 7. And if he can bust one of them for 40 or 50, even better. I think the same thing, with a guy like Byron Pringle. I think it's going to be very, very – he's the most intriguing person to me in terms of this receiving core. I like Darnell Mooney a lot. I think we understand what Darnell Mooney's going to bring. He's going to work hard at it. And I think, certainly right now, I would say he's the number one receiver on the team, although I don't think they have a true elite number one receiver. But I like Darnell Mooney. That's fine. What intrigues me about Byron Pringle is he's a guy who comes over from the Chiefs, right? And he was, 4th, 5th option, whatever it may be. And I think that we don't necessarily know all that he is or all that he can be. And I think that when you look at these elite level offenses, the Chiefs, the Rams, they are stacked with weapons all around. Cooper Kupp and Odell Beckham and Robert Woods and even what's number 12, the dude who his wife went to labor in the Super Bowl.
Von Jefferson,
right? He would come here. I think he would probably be the best receiver the Bears got right now. And I'm saying, when you take players from those types of offenses, they could come into an offense like the Bears and immediately be the most productive player. I think that Byron Pringle has a skill set that could allow him to really burst onto the scene and say, yo, who is this dude? Well, this is the dude who's been behind a 100 catch tight end and, a 90 catch wide receiver and a running, like all those types of things. And so I think that he's a very, very intriguing guy to me to see, okay, if he gets his opportunity, can he ascend to be a really, really, really good number 2 or even a low-end number 1 type of guy? So I think his skill set is intriguing to me. But again, I think that, I understand everybody wanting more from their receiving core. It makes sense. On paper, it's not sexy, right? But it doesn't have to be. They don't have to be sexy. They have to be reliable and dependable cereal, right? It don't cereal. You know what? I'm still in that. Okay, every time you hear me say all year long, the receiving core is cereal. But it's fine, right? It's fine. I think that they could utilize those guys and again just find ways to stay ahead of the chains. And I think that if you can do that, have an effective running game, then you can find 2 or 3 times a game to take shots down the field. You can try to get Darnell Mooney behind somebody or Pringle or Bayless to get behind somebody. And then as long as you can at least have that threatening element, you don't even have to hit it every time, right? You're not going to hit it.
Like this guy.
You don't have to hit it. They just have to be concerned that you might do it. Right. Yep. And if you take, 2 or 3 chances a game where you put that thing 50, 60 yards in the air, it's like, oh, okay, now we can't back up. That's giving David Montgomery an extra half second to operate before there's another guy down in the box. And that's really how you're going to win games. So, again, you utilize those guys the right way, you can be successful.
Again, taking you inside the mind of a DC. You don't have to hit it. I'm a defensive coordinator. I just saw you blow past my guy. Damn, I got to play too high safety. Because I'm not trying to give up a big play. You got to just be able to scare him, right? And I think one of the things that Swifty did a good job of, and you hit on this point, pre-draft, right? Pre-draft, and all the way up to this point, Swifty did a good job in pointing. I think I asked Swifty the question, right? There's a specific body type. Because you made a good point. Because everybody, the pushback you get is, well, we had 5 fast guys last year. No, we had little guys that were fast. Mm-hmm. When you can get 4'3" in a 6 foot, 200-pound frame, the issue you address is bump and run coverage. Like guys, physical corners that want to step up on you and manhandle you, they could manhandle those little dudes. Taylor Gabriel, his speed gets negotiated.
Good one, all of them.
Yeah, his speed is no good if he can't get off the line of scrimmage, right? So go ahead, Swift.
Mooney was our second tallest wide receiver last year. Second tallest on the team. Only guy taller than him was A-Rob. Now he's the second shortest guy. The only guy shorter than him on the whole squad is Daz Newsome. And that's every guy we brought in is tall. So that's some of the things you could see that Poles is doing that I like. He obviously likes tackles with 35-plus inch arms. So that's where I was like, ooh, I don't know what he's going to think about Borum. And then same with these wide receivers. He likes tall, physical, fast, athletic guys. And that's something that people don't think about Pringle. Anyone I've talked to about Pringle, it's like they have this assumption in their head that he's like 5'9", 5'10". He's a
No,
little guy.
no.
He's 6'1",
6'1",
200
200
pounds.
pounds. Like,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. People don't
Hey,
seem to realize that.
You go
my
back and watch
part.
this tape at Kansas State too. Like you watch this tape at Kansas State, and you can see this is a different kind of athlete. I mean, he wasn't, he's playing major college football, and this is a different kind of dude on the field. Sometimes you can just see it when guys are different. They different athletically speaking, right? And he had that type of difference making ability on the field. I think you give him opportunities, I think he'll continue to be somebody that just on the eye test, like, yo, that's different. That's
I, th-
different.
I think I saved this for a one-on-one conversation whenever I do speak with Byron personally one-on-one. But I honestly, and Swifty will say he'll testify to this. I really don't talk about Byron a whole lot on the show, but I'll say this, right? For me, all the tools are there. He's always been the best guy on the field, whether when he was at Hutch, when he was in high school, when he went to
Mm-hmm.
JUCO, when he went to K-State. It's a matter of focus. He works his tail off. It's a matter of focus and just getting in there and wanting to be great, and he's going to do all that, right? As
And
far
he
as
earned his
mentality,
spot in KC too.
yeah.
Like,
As far as
Yeah.
mentality, I'm gonna tell you right now, he that dude. He that dude. You don't want to going down the dark alley
Yeah.
at two
You want
o'clock
him
in the
with you?
morning.
Yeah.
That's the dude. That's the dudes you want with you. That's the dude
Mm-hmm.
you. He that guy.
Mm-hmm.
He that guy.
Okay.
You go to club and you start something because he with you. He that dude. So
Hey
like
man, don't say that, man, because I don't want the brother getting in trouble, man. He already had the little run in early, and I don't want to, I haven't heard that he's a behavior issue in that way. I mean, I know he had his things in terms of college and whatnot, but I don't want the dude getting in trouble,
it's
man.
not
I
a
want the dude to
behavior
play the
thing.
ball.
The ability to flip the switch, like the ability to flip the switch. Like
Yeah.
you talk about you talk about the mentality going over the middle.
Yeah.
You talking about I need a tough catch. I know I got a safety barreling down on me. That
I'm
guy.
gonna
When I
get it
see it in
anyway.
those terms, I'm thinking like you want that guy. And I always say this about football, right? People laughing when I say this all the time, especially about college football. You want one or two guys that I'm sorry, this is just a coachism, right? You
Mm-hmm.
want one or two guys that's a threat of making the blotter. You just got to have
Yeah.
one or two of those guys on your team. Like this Elijah
Nah.
Hicks guy, Elijah Hicks we
Yeah.
just drafted. You
Yeah.
need that guy that ain't quite there. You just
No, you definitely need those guys, and I appreciate that in a football player. I asked Braxton Jones, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, probably a rookie minicamp, if he's ever had a fist fight before. I asked him that in the middle of the press conference,
I
and it
heard
was just
that.
something. It was just something in my head that was
I
just
heard
like I
that
was just listening
question.
to him talk, and I was like, and I don't even think I intentionally meant to ask him that, but I'm listening to him talk. I'm listening to him talk. And he walks in, he's a big guy. You can see his size, but as I listen to him talking, he's just such a nice guy. He's so well spoken, and all those are good things. I'm not saying those are bad things, but as the press conference went along, I was like, "Yo, Braxton, you ever had a fist fight before?" And he was like,
See,
"Huh?"
that's the stuff you get from Herb. No. I heard. Hold on, man. I can't let you skip past that,
I love it.
cause I didn't know if it was you that asked the question, and I
It was me.
dismissed it. But now that you bring it home and said you the one that asked the question, now it makes sense to me because
Yeah, it matters.
you and I know, right? You and I know there's a certain kind of when you play a collision sport and the guy that comes in and he's like, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? It's all rainbows and sunshine. And he plays
Yeah.
offensive line.
Like, all right, it's cool. It's cool for you to be a nice guy, but I just need to know that you have a line in the sand, and if you cross it, I'm gonna punch you in your mouth.
Right.
Like
Right.
I just need to know that, right? And especially
Yep.
on offensive linemen, I need to know that we have at least one guy who every time there's a scuffle on the field, you don't even have to be able to see it. You be like, I bet you he in the middle of that. Like, you know what I mean? Or he on his way to it. And I think you just kind of need those guys, the Olin crew, whoever it is. And I remember asking Cody Whitehair last year, who was that guy on the offensive line? And he said, So I think we're all that guy. And I was like, none of y'all are that guy, right?
Nah,
If you don't, because
That means
it's not
nobody.
everybody, right? That means it's nobody, right? So if you say,
yeah.
I think it's all of us, that means it's nobody, because that guy, everybody knows who that guy is, and you don't have five of them. You don't have five of those guys.
No,
I
no,
agree
it's
with
all.
that.
And
Yeah,
I tell you, from coaching that position, it's a unique group, right? You always have an alpha within that group, and I think the guy that's this is from my observation in the like the body language and how he's speaking. I think Lucas Patrick is emerging as that guy and setting the tone and telling them like, guys, this is going to be the standard. Like we come here to punch people in the mouth, to be bullies. Like you got to have that one dude that comes in that room and be like, hey, no, this is not it.
I
You know
think
what I'm
Jenkins
saying?
could be that
Yeah,
guy. Yeah,
that's what I was getting ready to say too, Swift. I hope that
yeah,
Patrick is that guy,
Jenkins.
because I think that Jenkins is that guy too, and I think you can have one and a half or two of those guys.
Who was the
You
other
on
guy,
point,
Swift?
Tevin.
Tevin Jenkins. Tevin
Oh
Jenkins.
yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah, yeah.
And you saw it last year when he came on. I mean,
Yeah,
what Herb said, we didn't have any of those guys who'd stick up for the quarterback or be in the brawl. And that's when Tevin Jenkins, you guys remember that
yeah.
penalty he got last year.
Jermaine Ifedi was
And
blamed for that,
Affetti
in my
was
opinion.
telling him, yeah, that's when I saw. I know Poles saw that, and he said,
Uh,
Jermaine Affetti, you cut right now.
You
Like,
get up
dude,
out of here,
you
Jack.
gone. Like, get out of
I've
town.
never
Like,
gone at a guy on Twitter harder than I went at Jermaine Ifedi after that happened, bro. That's not a general practice of mine. Like
Yeah,
atting players on Twitter, like he
yeah,
violated a cardinal sin of O line play 101,
yeah,
yeah,
blah
it's
blah
like,
blah,
what are
this,
you
that, and the
doing?
other. Hey, Hurt,
yeah.
before I
Nah,
get out of here, man,
yeah, for sure.
before we get out of here, my pops is in the chat. Y'all see him in there, Willie L. Terry Sr. By the way, it's Coach Terry when you speak to Byron. Pops is in the
Salute,
chat.
Coach Taylor.
What
It's
up, Coach
Pops in the
Terry?
chat. Pops want to know what's the bottom line. How long we gotta wait? How long we gotta wait before he can watch football again?
Uh, Pops, I would say this. I think the Bears can be competitive this year. I think that, on the low end, I can see them being 6-11. On the high end, I can see them being, 9-8. You know what I mean? I think that both of those things are possibilities for them this year. I think realistically, they'll begin to compete or look like a team that can compete next year. So I think next year they'll have more salary cap space. They'll have their full allotment of draft picks, and then you'll see them kind of really ascend. I think that, this year you hope that they can compete and get around that 500 level and maybe even be in that. You know how they always show like clinch the playoff berth, whatever, and then in the hunt. I think they can find themselves in the hunt column, right at the last part, and I think that would be a pretty successful season for them. But I think next year, I think they should be a playoff team. I think they should be a team that should not only make the playoffs but maybe win a game. And then I think realistically, if that's what happens in 23, I think realistically their Super Bowl window of opportunity is going to be 24 and 25. You've got Justin Fields up until then. And I think that, he had his rookie year. He'll have this year. Next year, they'll really start to take that step forward and become a playoff team. And then those next 2 years, 24, 25, when you still have him under his rookie contract, that is going to be their legitimate window of opportunity to win a Super Bowl before you either have to pay him $300 million,
Mm-hmm.
or you got to hit the reset button and start over and say, "Dang, he wasn't the answer either." Now, hopefully, he's the answer, and then you will end up paying him that money. But when you do, that usually closes the door on your Super Bowl window in terms of having with a rookie quarterback, just like we saw
Right,
with Russell Wilson and those guys. Like once you had to pay him, now the Legion of Boom is over with. And so
right,
I think that
Yep.
this year they'll kind of set the tone for who they want to be. They'll establish their culture. Matt Eberflus, Ryan Poles, and they're doing that. Next year they'll have more money in cap space to be aggressive in free agency. They'll have their full allotment of draft picks. You'll see who they actually are then. I think they'll be a playoff team, but I think that those next 2 years, 24 and 25, is their real opportunity, their real window to truly compete for a Super Bowl.
Hey Swift, we finna get Herb up out of here. What you got for him as we get ready to close up, bro?
Man, Herb, it was a pleasure, and I agree with almost everything you said there, man. This year is about growth, establishing an
Mm-hmm.
identity, kind of getting our locker room gelled together, figuring out which spots we have our big weaknesses are at, whether it is left tackle or wide receiver, defensive tackle, and you can attack those next year with $200 million of free agent
Right.
cap space
Right.
and all your draft picks. So, yeah, I'm with you 100% on that. This year's going to be fun to watch, though. I think it's going to be a lot more fun to watch than usual. We have a quarterback that we want to see. We have an elite secondary that should be fun to watch. I just think there's a lot of things that, if you're a fan, you can watch this season, and the wins don't really matter that much. Whether or not we win 6, 8 games, 10 games,
Yeah.
whatever it happens,
Be a
like,
better brand of
just
football.
enjoy the ride because we're building the team the right way for once, I think.
No, I agree with you wholeheartedly, man. I think that if they can find themselves in contention late in the season, and just to be able to, they should be a little bit better at that point in the season. And then, Coach, you made the point earlier about coming to Chicago in late December, January. That's if you play some of those one weather teams, that's not what you want. And I asked Coach Eberflus about the schedule last week, and he kind of snapped at me, which was interesting. He kind of snapped like it doesn't matter, and I was like, Oh, okay. If you say so, and shout out to Jason Leisure from the Sun-Times, he followed it up, and then Matt kind of acknowledged that it does matter, and shout out to Coach too, because right after the press conference, he came right up to me and shook my hand and said, "Hey, I didn't mean it like that. I was just," and I know it's just coach speak. He's just like, "Oh, no, we play who's in front of us." I get it, but it does matter, right? It matters when your bye comes, and right, they got a bye in week 14. I think as a young team that's building a new system, that's not ideal. They would have been better served to have a bit of an earlier bye to kind of take a break, assess what they've already done, adjust, whatever it's going to take.
That stuff.
Yeah, self-scout, all that kind of stuff. And so I think that that would have been better for them as opposed to a late bye. I think it also matters. Is your schedule, is your home schedule, is it front loaded, is it back loaded? Do you play most of your home games early or late? Those types of things, they do matter. And so I was surprised when he said it didn't, but he's one of those real coach speak guys, hits principle and all this. And I think like, okay, that's fine, but like some of this stuff does actually matter. But I think that if they can get the thing going and then have some teams coming to Chicago when it's cold and you're able to establish that, not outside zone, right? We're running power, right?
We going with power. We going with power.
Right. Okay, cool.
Listen,
okay.
I want to look to the sideline and see that power symbol, like.
Right. If they can get that thing going and have that defense humming by that point in the season, I think they can again remain relevant late into the season. Now they're not contending for a Super Bowl, nothing like that, but they can be competitive and surprising people this year, and I think that'll be a good thing for them.
Hey, you know how I know it's gonna work? Because when we were saying power, the train came through. That
there you go.
We trucking up with food. Hey, listen,
True.
man. I'm gonna tell you this straight up, bro. You have an open invitation, man. Anytime you want to come on the show, man. And people that people know me personally, bro. They know I don't rock with people like that. My pops will tell you, man. I'm a retired Marine. I play things close to the chest, man. I know when I got a good vibe with people. So you got an open invitation on the show. Also, the plan is during the season, of course, we're gonna live broadcast, before, and I haven't decided if we're gonna do a pregame show before, but of course, the Bears come to the ATL this year, so we're gonna do an ATL takeover. So you invited to come down, man.
I'll pull up there.
Yeah, I'll take care of you, man. You come to the city, I'll take care of you, man. I may do a show.
I'll definitely be down there. I like the Bears' road schedule this year. We're going to Jerry's World and Dallas. Go to New York twice.
Yeah,
go to New England, and we're going to the A. So I'll definitely be down there, man. So yeah, we definitely.
You're welcome to pull up, man. You're welcome to pull up. We're gonna do a Bears takeover. I've been ordained unofficially as the Bears takeover of Atlanta mayor. So
good.
I gotta put together a whole weekend. I bet you didn't know we got 2 Heralds down here.
I knew y'all had one. I didn't know y'all had 2.
Got 2 Heralds down here. 2 Heralds.
I didn't know y'all had 2. Dig that.
One of them low key is really the club. It ain't even like a restaurant. It's a club.
Time out. Everything in Atlanta is the club. Let's be clear.
Pretty much.
Yeah. It's a bar in the back of the church in Atlanta.
Shout out to Harold's on Edgewood here in Atlanta. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead and give us that sponsorship. But definitely you invited to come down, invited on the show, man. Let's do it, bro. So
hey man, for sure. When I'm down there, we'll definitely lock in. There's gonna be a lot of Bears fans coming down there too. I've been already hearing a lot of plans about people, doing the Bears takeover, and lots of people coming down there. The way the Bears fans did Vegas last year was bananas. Took that stadium over, and once the Bears started winning that game, all you could hear was "Let's go Bears!" All the orange and blue. Took that stadium. It was, and then all across the strip and like the whole weekend, it was just orange and blue. Chicago took Vegas over that weekend. I'm sure they're gonna do the same thing.
You see what Pop said in the comments? We got extra rooms, bro. That's how we do it down
Say
here.
less.
Here we go.
Listen, man.
Hospitality, man. We got
Hey,
plenty.
listen,
We got
man.
plenty of space down here. So
We an independent media company, man. So we try to pinch some pennies wherever we can, man. So it's all good.
holler at me, man. We'll hook it up, man. Mom, get mom to throw down in the kitchen up there
Oh man.
like she doing now.
Say less. Say less. Shout out to Mom. Shout out to Pops, man. Shout out to both of y'all for having me on, man. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'm a fan of the work y'all do, man. I appreciate it truly, and I look forward to coming back on, man. You say I got to open the invite. I'm gonna take you up on that. I'm gonna see y'all. I'm just gonna call it. Hey, can I pop in right quick? Because I got some
Yup.
stuff to say.
Yeah, no,
Yep.
that's
Hey,
you know
and make
what? It's
sure you
crazy.
tell them where to find you at, where to find
Yep.
the bigs at.
Yeah,
Tell the
plug your
people where to
stuff,
Yeah,
find
man.
you
for
guys
sure.
at.
You can follow me on Twitter at HerbHoward411, HerbHoward411, and at It's the Bigs. Like I said, we cover all the sports teams there. So you'll the Bigs Twitter page is a combination of all of us. You'll see stuff from me, see stuff from Terrence, see stuff from Gino. Like everything will be on there. But mine is HerbHoward411. And I always joke with people like, oh, because you got the information. It's not an information thing. It's my birthday. I didn't even think about that, right? My birthday is April 11th. So the 411 is really more about my birthday than it is about information. But
Right.
yeah, you can
That's
follow me
awesome,
there.
man. No, that fits.
Hey, you know what's weird? Before we ever had a conversation, right? That point you just what the point you just made. Before this our first time actually ever talking, right?
Facts.
Last year, I said to myself, I said, a guy like Herb would probably need a place like this to come where he just because I know it's certain things you can't do in that space, but you need a place to come. So when you need to vent, bro, hit me up. Say, hey man, I need I need to have a Stephen A. moment.
Most def, man. Most def. We'll definitely do it here, man. I appreciate it. It's been a dope conversation. I did curse one time. I apologize. I didn't mean to let that slip. I got excited about
No,
something.
bro. I let subs
Oh,
slip all
good.
the time. Matter of fact, my son did
I've
did
done it
the
a few times.
intro video. I said, hey, it's my kid, so I'm going. You know what I'm saying? Loyalty over everything, bro. I'm not.
Oh yeah, I heard that. Oh, that's your kid track.
Yeah. By the way, shout
Hmm.
out to G Don't Crash. G Don't Crash, Chicago artist. You know what I'm
Yeah, I
saying? G
heard
Don't
that.
Crash
I was
on
listening to that. That's
YouTube.
fire.
He got so much stuff coming out, man. I'm so proud of the young man. He's doing this thing here in Atlanta, man. So
I'll
I
make
don't
sure
never
I
get a
go
chance to
subscribe to
plug
the
him, but
YouTube page too and follow that.
here's Chicago kid, man, doing this rap thing. He's just trying to do it the right way, man. So, but listen,
Shout out to all the Chicago kids,
appreciate
man.
all the Chicago Bears 360 fans, man. Thanks for joining us. This is my boy Swifty, the top scout in
It was a pleasure,
Bears
Herb, man. It was a pleasure.
DIY
Pleasure,
media.
man.
He's the scout. I'm the coach. That's Herb. What else can you ask for, bro? What else can you ask for? All right, man. We out
None.
of here. I appreciate y'all.
Peace.
Thanks for tapping in. I got to do this the classic way.